Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for, excuse me, an FA Cup preview. But we have so much to talk about, and I have so little interest in this game, if I'm being perfectly honest, because we have so many bigger things to worry about than flipping playing Man City again in the FA Cup. But still, of course, we will talk about the game, because by the time we get to tomorrow, I will be hyped up for it again, as I usually am. But my God, we are in trouble at the moment. My God. I mean, presuming we don't win tomorrow, it's going to be a whole session of 10. We're going to be 10th in the league, have 10 injuries, and have 1 win in 10. We're in so much trouble. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm not really sure. Like, there's so many issues all happening at once. That's why it's difficult. Like, I'm going to ask the question to the boys, and I've obviously tried to speak about it myself, whether it was after the last game, the game before that, or whatever else. But as much as we try to sit here and explain things to ourselves, there's unfortunately not just one explanation, I think. I think there's just so many countless explanations. It's actually a little bit crazy. But we are certainly in trouble, and the fear, or my biggest worry at the moment, is that I'm not really sure how we're going to get out of there. Because, you know, if we had Reece James about to return, if we had even Kante about to return, or it's like a few of the injuries about to return outside of Loftus-Cheek and who knows how long Pulisic is going to be out for, maybe I'd have some hope. But because we still have like a good while to go until most of the players that are out injured will be back, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, because, I mean, our board, our owners, whatever, they think they need to sign all the players except the players that we need, seemingly. I'm not saying, like, we'll get to it. I'm not saying the players that they're trying to sign are bad players, but they're not the players that we so urgently need, in my opinion. You know, we spent a week negotiating with a player only to piss the parent club off so much that they want nothing to do with us anymore. Like, we're at the moment, just everything's going wrong. We're getting unlucky with injuries. You know, on the pitch, it's not particularly working, even though the City game was okay. Off the pitch, things aren't working at the moment. At least it doesn't feel like it. Obviously, you know, we had a bit of an announcement galore day today with Datro Fofana being announced. Also, I can't think of his bloody name. Andrey Santos, the young Brazilian midfielder that we signed, was announced. Obviously, Badiashile was announced yesterday before the game, or on Thursday before the game. But I'm not quite sure if these guys, you know, Datro Fofana, and we're in such deep shit that we even think he's going to be a problem. He's going to be the solution. And people talk about him starting tomorrow, or at least featuring tomorrow. Pice, I'll start with you, because you weren't here after Thursday, of course. Well, neither was Charlie, to be fair. But I'll start with you anyway. What are your feelings at the moment? Because the performance wasn't that bad on Thursday. Now, was it good enough? No. But was it better than most of us probably expected? Yeah, probably was. So, not that bad. But obviously, it got topped off with 2 more injuries. Now, judging by how we played when Sterling was off the pitch, not sure how much that harms us, if I'm honest. But, sorry, I had to throw a little dig in there. But still, we have we don't even have any players available. You know, people talk about consistency. Well, we'll have all the consistency in the world because we have no players left to rotate. So, where do you sit on everything at the moment before we even get into all the news that we need to cover?
Well, I think after the game against Man City, I just kind of tweeted, well, you know, I think this season's just really whatever, to be honest. I'd love to win tomorrow. I really would. It'd give me something to, you know, look forward to the next FA Cup game. Maybe we could go on a cup run as well if we catch City on an off day and, you know, they rotate heavily and we take off. Because the thing is, we played quite well last time we played them in the cup. We could have won if it weren't for their goalie. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just obviously... I mean, I know I've been quite critical of Potter, but even now, I'm getting to the point now where I'm just like, okay, like, what more can he really do? Like, when you have to bring on, like, when you're forced to bring on Hutchinson, Lewis Hall, Chukwuemeka, as much as they played well, like, you shouldn't have to be forced them on in the game against Man City. The way you were forced to bring them on, like, our most experienced player on the bench against Man City was Conor Gallagher. Like, has anyone actually deeped that? That's crazy. That's actually crazy. So yeah, I mean, I think we played all right. To be fair, we had some chances, but
sorry, what the oldest player on the bench was Conor Gallagher? Is what you said?
The most experienced.
Wasn't Jorginho on the bench?
Nope, Jorginho wasn't on the bench.
Was he not? Oh, fair.
Jorginho
Alba
wasn't on the
was,
bench.
yeah, but he came on, so yeah. I think we played all right, but
Is Jorginho injured as well?
I don't know where he was. He wasn't on the bench, though, I'm pretty sure, because otherwise he would have came on. I didn't recognise him in the
I
squad.
swore I saw him on the bench, but I'm gonna go double check. Give me a second.
No, Jorginho was on the bench, to be fair. But still, like, as much as, okay, it's not quite Gallagher that's the most experienced, your point still stands that outside of Jorginho, the bench was incredibly inexperienced outside of Aubameyang, who came on after 2 minutes. Your point still stands. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, so lost my track of thought now, but
Sorry.
yeah, I mean it was Man City were just levels. I was just standing there, bro. The way they passed the ball around, like they make you suffer sitting and standing there. I don't know if Charlie felt the same. I just felt like pure suffer. I mean, every time we got the ball off them, we couldn't keep it. They were just levels, planets ahead of us. But we know that anyway. But yeah, I mean, we've just got so many injuries, and we need to bring signings in ASAP now. Like I don't know how long Sterling's out for. Even if it's a couple of games, that's still a couple of games. Like it's just at this point, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. I think everyone's just really dejected, to be honest. I mean, when Man City scored, a few people around me were just like, "Oh, there you go," sort of thing. Like no one was really bothered because that's just the position we're in right now. Like it's. Yeah, I just think it's really flat. We just got to ride through and see if we get better. But it's going to be hard to get better because of how many fucking players we've got out. So
no, exactly. And now we're back in the period where we're going to have games all the flipping time. I'm not sure. Is there, because of the World Cup, I assume there's not going to be a week like off or anything in February like there was the last couple of years. And also, I mean, I guess if we don't win tomorrow, then we have less games. But also, if we get a draw tomorrow, the replays are back. FA Cup replays, the third round replays are back. If people weren't aware of that, now that the Rona is kind of done, replays back. So if we draw tomorrow, all that does is add another game. Do you know what I mean? Like against Man City, we would have then played Man City 3 times in 2.5 weeks. Flipping brilliant, Charlie. I get to you. You were there as well on Thursday. What's your feelings on the situation as a whole at the moment? Like obviously, the injuries, the form. Our interest in signings, like the Enzo thing that happened, and now maybe some of us still had a little bit of hope that it was kind of just a, I don't know, almost like a warning bid, like and that just backfired in the end, and we're still somewhat involved, but it doesn't seem like that at all. Now we're looking at 10 million euro signings. I'm like, well, how can you go from 120 million euros to a 10 million signing? I don't understand. Like, what are we doing? We need players, man. And we still don't seriously seem interested in a right back. Like whether it's the reason that Clutch gives in terms of, well, no one wants to come because they all know they're going to be back up to Reece James. I don't really care. Excuse me. As if Juranovic from Celtic at 27 wouldn't take the payday of coming to Chelsea and be a backup for a couple of years and then go somewhere else again. Do you know what I mean? As if that wouldn't be possible. We just don't seem to be bothered by it. And I just can't understand. Like there's so much I don't understand at the moment. It's genuinely crazy. What are your thoughts, Charlie?
Well, in terms of like kind of the football first, in terms of the game Thursday, I thought the reality of the situation is that like we are where we are in the table because that's how good we are at the moment. People say, oh, it's Chelsea, we shouldn't be there. Well, no, perhaps we shouldn't be, but the reality is that we're there in the table for a reason because the group of players that we've got, that's their level. And people seem to think that these guys are a lot better than they actually are. And the reality of the situation is they aren't. These are the same group of players that were shit under Thomas Tuchel towards the end and have been shit under Graham Potter for the vast majority, other than Kepa and Thiago Silva. Everyone has been pretty shit. So that's where we are. We're not good enough. And it's going to take a long time to fix it. I think this has been coming for a while now, and it's kind of like it's all the shortcomings of the previous regime kind of all coming to a head at once, and kind of the mess is just being exposed, and all those short-term decisions and all those poor signings in the transfer market have all come round in one go and just absolutely fucked us, basically. And now we're seeing the mess of those poor actions from before. I thought Thursday we actually played okay. Yes, we still lost, but I don't think anyone expected us to get anything out of that game. And there were promising signs, that I could see like an improvement from certain players. Potter, in fairness to him, made bold decisions. Yes, I know there was no Mason Mount for injury, but he dropped Jorginho, he dropped senior players. Yes, he was slightly forced with Sterling and Pulisic going off to put youngsters on, but he could have easily put Jorginho. Yeah, true. But he could have easily put Jorginho on and switched the system, but he chucked on Chukwuemeka, I thought was very good. He put Lewis Hall on, he put Hutchinson on. And, this is what I mean when we talk about kind of a project and stuff. You want players to be used that are obviously going to be part of the future plans and are going to be the basis of this project. So I was glad to see him do that. And they actually impressed pretty well. I thought, obviously, Zakaria was very good. Whether he's going to be part of the plans or not, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think the use of the youngsters was promising. And there were promising signs there. But the reality of the situation is, despite the hand that Potter's been dealt and he has been parachuted into an absolute mess, the reality of the situation is it's 1 win in 9 games. And when you're at Chelsea or any top club, that's not acceptable regardless of the circumstances. So we have to find something that, that can get us a result. And I think for me going forwards, just play the youngsters. I'm fed up of seeing these overpaid senior players just turn up week in, week out and just serve up utter shit. Play the youngsters, give them a crack. They want to be here. They're hungry. There's no fear. And they're actually no worse. So I think we just need to play the likes of Chukwuemeka, play Lewis Hall, play Hutchinson, play these young guys because they're the future and they're not going to be any worse than what we've been seeing all season.
No, maybe not. I mean, it's a tough one because obviously there's always the argument to make when it comes to youngsters. Playing youngsters, there's no point if you play only youngsters because then they're just playing in the under-21s team just against better oppositions. But they're still within their same group, so they don't really improve as quickly as when they play with experienced good players. But like you're saying, how many of these experienced good players are only good at the moment? Now, obviously, Thiago Silva, Koulibaly was good against City. Cucurella's clearly splitting opinions, but I thought in the grand scheme of things, still a pretty good performance last game. You, of course, got Kovacic. I'm not really sure what the situation is there. He was apparently elaborating with a knee injury all of the first part of the season, goes to the World Cup, plays every game, comes back, plays.
He's fine,
so
yeah.
Is the knee injury fine? Does he still have it? What's happening? I don't know. And then up front, you have Aubameyang, who,
mate, he's a waste of space. Honestly, I know people say Lukaku's the worst ever Chelsea signing because of the money. Mate, this guy's not far off. A complete waste of money and just like a complete misprofile. Isn't right for the club at all. It was just ridiculous. Like, I don't know what we were thinking. And it's even worse given the fact it was purely a Tuchel sign and they sacked him the game after. So why was that even sanctioned?
No, it's crazy.
Honestly,
did you? I think Pais, did you tweet it like a couple of weeks ago when you said that when Thomas Tuchel was kind of introduced to Zakaria, didn't even know who he was. Like, I'm not necessarily sure what that means. Does that mean he didn't know we were going to sign Zakaria, or does that just mean when he met Zakaria, he didn't recognize him? Because obviously people, the media love to twist things and make it sound a bit worse than it actually is. But, the way that sounded certainly wasn't an ideal scenario. Am I surprised that Tuchel didn't specifically ask for Zakaria? No. So, don't have the biggest issue with it. But the Aubameyang one is a problem. I'll say something a little bit cringe now. People might think that. But genuinely, I think right now, the only thing that we can do and the only thing that will get us out of this is just a bit of togetherness, as a fan base, as a club. Like, what I really can't stand is how when our club is in trouble and our club is going through a bad time, the people that make it worst for our own club is us as the fans. Like, we make it worse. Like, the atmosphere against City was actually pretty good on TV, it seemed anyway. But as the worse it gets, the better the atmosphere needs to be. The more we need to try and help these players somehow, because they're clearly struggling. Clearly, whether it's because they're not trying hard enough, or whether they're not good enough, or whether the system is wrong, whatever you think the reason is, it doesn't really matter. Fact of the matter is, Potter's here, he's not going anywhere. Boehly is here, he's not going anywhere. And yes, it's the January transfer window, but we're not exactly going to change the entire squad. It's not going to happen. So what we need to do now is just back whoever's playing and just back it. Genuinely, I think that we just need to fight our way out of this now, because what else can we do? We can sign a couple of players, and I would hope we sign the right players quickly so they can actually help us soon. But otherwise, it's essentially a little bit of waiting until injured players come back. That's kind of it, because I don't really know, because like how much, whether it's Thomas Tuchel, even if we had Pep Guardiola, if we had 10 injuries to like 7 or 8 of those usually regular, not starters, but players that play regular minutes, like you're gonna have problems no matter who you are. So it's just, HM says Potter doesn't have the minerals to bring togetherness. I think Potter can bring a lot of togetherness. I'm not sure if he can yet, if I'm honest. I think maybe he's... What I'm most disappointed by Potter is that he's taking a little bit too long to adjust to the club of Chelsea size. I'm just not 1,000,000% sure if, the season being as stop and go as it has been, the Queen dying, international break, World Cup, plus the injuries. But you don't need to... For togetherness, the last thing you need is a scary manager to be together. I'm just saying, Matt. But anyway, maybe that's hampered and slowed down the whole process of him getting used to it. Everything getting used to each other. And it's not just Potter, by the way. It's obviously the new ownership. It's basically every single position at board level has pretty much changed. Bloody medical department has changed. We didn't even properly replace it. It's just some random American celebrity firm overseeing things, but we didn't actually replace anyone actually there. Like, why do we not know who the people are from this random medical firm at the club? I just don't understand. But, Clutch, sorry it took so long until I finally got to you now. But what is your feelings on what Pies said and what Charlie said and what I said? Like, how do you feel on the situation at the moment? Like, what can we do? Is there anything we can do?
I don't know what this togetherness thing you're talking about is. No, I'm kidding. That's fine. Yeah, I think things are a lot harder when we tend to have a fan base that loses their shit every little thing. And I mean, I think people tend to forget, like, these people are humans. They're not just your little toys to go out there and win a game. They're human. Some things happen. Some things are bad. And it's a rough spot right now. I think there's a lot of things happening, and everything coming together all at once is not easy for anybody. Like Potter having 10 injuries, as you said. Who has that? Nobody in Europe has that. Anybody's going to struggle. City would struggle if they had 10 players that play first team. They would struggle. I mean, we look at Liverpool. They lost Van Dijk, who they're going to lose Van Dijk again, and we'll see how well they played for that. That season, they finished, what, 4th? 3rd? I think they finished 3rd that season when they lost Van Dijk. But you see how much you struggle when you lose important players. It's not as easy as just, buy the bench. And I think people tend to think things are just so simple, and it's not. There's complexities to everything. And for me, I think when I look at it, I think it's just about waiting and seeing how things go. I mean, that's all we can do at the moment is just hope that we make the right signings right now, like a right backup option, because obviously we know Aspie can't do it. Somehow terminate Aubameyang's contract. I don't care how you do it. Send him with Ronaldo. I really don't care. But he cannot play anymore. You need a good midfield option. Maybe Zakaria can fill that gap until we go to the summer. I don't know. But the first thing is we need to start getting some of these guys back from injury.
Exactly. And that's unfortunately just a bit of a waiting game. And we say that it's not even just a waiting game. It's a waiting and crossing our fingers game, because, I mean, Reece James was back. Problem is he got injured again. Fofana was back. Wesley Fofana, I'm talking, because now we have 2 Fofanas. Like, can we make things more difficult for us? Do you know what I mean? He was basically back. He's injured again. So, we don't even know. 3-4 weeks. Well, by now, like 3 weeks, Reece James might be back. Well, a week later, he might be injured for another month. Who knows? At this point, we have no idea. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into some news now. Before we do that, please do subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe. Did I say just subscribe? Smash the like button and subscribe. Just do both. Do you know what I mean? I would kind of love to talk about the whole atmosphere situation that Matt H just touched on in the comments, but we have so much to talk about. We'll only touch on it at the very end if we still have time. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let me just bring up, I guess, the kind of biggest piece of news. I'm not 1,000,000% sure if it's the biggest piece of news. I should probably go onto the right Pies tweet, shouldn't I? According to Fabrizio Romano and by whatever his name is, I forget, I do apologize. Chelsea are having some contacts to discuss the conditions to sign Marcus Thuram. Chelsea really like him and are speaking to Thuram's side and Gladbach. They want him for January. Also continued conversations ongoing. Thuram will take some time to decide whether to move to Chelsea now or wait until the summer to pick his club. There was also some reports that this is led by Christopher Vivell. Christopher? Is it Christopher or Christoph? Because we have Christoph Freund and Christopher Vivell. Yeah, there you go. What do we think about that one? I did speak to your expert about it just before we went live, but I will hold up with telling you guys what he said for now. I'll go with you first, Pice. What are your thoughts on this? And if there's any more details that maybe you didn't add to the tweet, please, elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I think the thing why it might be worth a punt at least is because he's so cheap. Like they're talking like £10 million or something. Like we signed Andrey Santos for the same, and he's probably, he's from Brazil's second division. So, I mean, whenever I've watched him, which has not been a lot, but certainly in the World Cup, I quite like him sort of on the left-hand side. A lot of people say he's more of a striker though. But yeah, interesting one. He's 6'4". He's very strong, so it's a different profile than what we've got completely. We don't have any wingers or strikers that are like that. The only one that was close was Broja, and he got injured. So yeah, I mean, it'd been an interesting signing. I just think the same issues are kind of there. This would be potentially really good if we signed Enzo Fernandez or a creative midfielder, but I just feel like whoever we bring in now is going to struggle because Reece James is our obviously our most creative player. You could argue obviously that playing a 4 at the back and just being naturally more attacking should help us in the attacking phase, and you'd hope as the season goes on, I'm talking in like 2-3 months time, if we did sign Thuram, maybe he'd get used to the players and all that, and maybe we'd be able to play a bit better. But I don't know. I think it's worth a punt, honestly. I don't really see what could go wrong with this one. I mean, he's 25. He's a completely different profile to what we've got. It's not like we're just signing, I don't know, someone who's kind of the similar thing to what we've got. I think that's what kind of intrigues me a little bit. It's just he's quite a lot different to what we've got. So it might be quite interesting. Yeah, I know he's fairly quick, but I believe he did have like a really terrible injury last season, and he lost quite a bit of his pace. I think I saw someone saying, but he's still like kind of deceptively quick. But he's 6'4", so you don't expect him to be rapid. But I mean, yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see what happens. I just think the same problems will occur. Like, he's not really a goal scorer anyway. I think this is his highest goal scoring season in the Bundesliga. He's got 10. I think he's second highest to Nkunku actually. So. Yeah, how many problems?
While that is good, all good in that, we have to consider when we always see these types of Bundesliga stats now, we have to consider Bayern don't have a striker anymore, and basically Dortmund don't have a striker either.
Exactly.
So,
well, that's what I'm saying, and this is his best season. Like he notoriously doesn't score goals. Like, how many problems does he really fix? But at the end of the day, do we actually need a goal scorer? Because every time we've bought a goal scorer, they're flopped anyway. Or do we just need someone with a bit of a different profile that can offer something different, which he would. So I don't know. I'm not too gassed about it, but I'm not like, oh my god, no, fuck no, sort of thing. You know what I mean? I'm kind of just in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's been a bit of talk about an interest in Marcus Thuram for a few days, I feel like, and obviously, Fabrizio reported it, so it became a bit of a bigger thing. When I initially thought about it earlier, and I tweeted it as well, I was like, well, we complain about getting bullied too easily. We complain about not really holding the ball in the forward areas once we get there. We complain about a lack of aerial threat at times. I guess someone that's 6'4" and pretty quick and, versatile to some extent as well, being able to play left wing and striker is useful. I will now share what I was talking to your expert about. And your expert, as much as he calls himself your expert, rightly so, like fair play to him, and check him out everywhere, please. Love the guy. He's not going to be spot on everything. Of course, he can't be. I asked him, what would you think about Chelsea signing for 10 million euros? Which is just like, it might be more than that, but there's one of the numbers thrown around. And he said, well, he loves him as a player, but he doesn't think he should come to Chelsea. His explanation for that is that basically what Pies just touched on. He's not creative at all. Like, not in terms of that it's a negative thing of him. That's just not the style of player he is. He's not a creative player. So he's like, well, none of your issues are going to be solved until you become more creative, because basically almost hinting at, well, the players that you do have aren't that bad once you have some creativity in your team. But it's weird because he says Thuram is nowadays pretty much an out-and-out striker. Doesn't really play on the wing, only for France. And even then, it's more like a bit like a Timo Werner type winger, where you play in the wide areas just to have a bit more space to run in behind and then attack the goal, rather than you actually being there to score goals. Now, you could obviously argue with Havertz being our 9, maybe one winger like that is actually useful for us. And I was also thinking about it as a squad option for 10 million euros. I mean, couldn't be the worst in some games, especially against low blocks. Being able to bring on a forward that's 6'4", has some pace, some power, can be useful. Your expert isn't quite as old on it. I'm not so sure. Like I said earlier, I thought I saw some benefits to it, but I'm also not really sure. Like, are we like? I feel like this is the type of signing you should be making when you're having a pretty decent season and you want to just add a little bit of strength in depth. That's when you should be signing someone like Thuram.
Well, so Arsenal.
Well, yeah, basically. Yeah. Like, if you're not gonna, either you sign someone super good and you make one of your current starters the backup, or you sign someone to be a backup. And that's like, if you haven't, and I'm not even saying you don't even have to have as good a season as Arsenal are having. Even if we were like 3rd right now, I'd be like, yeah, okay, add something to our squad without, breaking the bank, and we can still spend big on forwards in the summer and stuff. I see that logic. But with the situation that we're in, again, we're 10th, we have 10 injuries, we're 1 win out of 9. After tomorrow, potentially 1 win out of 10. Is Marcus Thuram the player we should go after, Charlie? What are your thoughts on this?
Like, I don't mind it, but it's not a priority. This is something that we should be looking at if we'd already bought in a right back, and a midfield player. Then maybe, we should be looking at Marcus Thuram. So in terms of priorities, it 100% doesn't make sense. But in terms of like just the deal in isolation, I mean, for the amount of money, it is worth taking a punt on. As Pi said, he offers something different to the attacking players we've got. Could he be any worse than the current attackers? I mean, that would be pretty tough to top that, but I mean, I wouldn't expect so. But yeah, look, he's got height, perhaps not as much pace as he used to have, but he's a different profile at the top end of the pitch, and he could offer something different. And for the money, I think it would be worth a gamble for Chelsea to take, but it's not worth the gamble at the expense of looking at a right back, or at the expense of bringing a midfield player in. This, for me, would have to be on top of bringing a right back and a midfield player. And those 2 positions are far more important than bringing Fofana in. Bringing in Thuram.
Charlie, I wonder if, sorry to cut you off. I wonder if Aubameyang could leave in January, because
I'd be delighted.
I don't know what you guys thought, but you saw his reaction when he came off. Graham Potter was like, I just didn't, he called, what did he say, fatigue or something? For me, that's a nice way of saying you're a lazy fucker and I don't want to use you.
Mate, he had one touch in the City box. That was it. He was dog shit.
I don't know, obviously we need attackers, but I'm wondering if this actually is someone that is coming in to replace someone who's already the depth option.
It's possible. Maybe. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Aubameyang's got no future at Chelsea beyond the end of this season. So
he absolutely doesn't. And people know how much of not a fan I am of Aubameyang. But should that still be our first priority?
No, they've definitely got the priorities wrong. I mean, and by the way, it's not to say that they're not, working on other deals, but we're
certainly not hearing about those other deals.
I mean, I don't mind this, as long as it's not at the expense of working on other deals. Like, if this is as well as getting a midfield player and a right back, then great. If it's not, then I don't really like it. But I think for the money, it's worth a go.
Yeah, I do agree with that in a way. I mean, he's 25 years old. If you're signing for 10 million euros, surely, even if it doesn't quite work out, we can sell him for profit in the next 18 months if we want to. We can sell him, in the summer it's maybe a bit soon to sell him again, but the summer after that,
and to be fair, I thought it was
sell him for good profit.
I thought he was pretty decent in the World Cup. I know he didn't play much, but I felt he made a difference when he came on in the semi-final, and he made a difference when he came on in the final for France. So, I mean, I know that's only 2 games, but, you know, he did make a difference for him. So I think he could offer something different. But again, yeah, it's not a priority.
No. Clutch, what are your thoughts? I mean, you said initially, like, if we're replacing Pulisic with Thuram, I don't think that's going to be happening at all. I know Fabrizio Romano keeps saying, like, there's a chance Pulisic leaves in January if Chelsea sign a winger. Well, according to Euro expert, Thuram isn't a winger these days anymore anyway, so I'm not, unless we plan to use him on the wing, even though he doesn't really play on the wing anymore. So, Pies, did you just say something?
I think the Pulisic thing was more to do with Mudryk, because with Mudryk, like, if he comes, he would be 100% guaranteed start on the left. That's when Pulisic wouldn't really play. So I think if this is like whereas Thuram, it's like he kind of covers both, and he's not really like affects Pulisic.
Would also be, in my opinion, super stupid if we sign Mudryk and let Pulisic go immediately, personally. But just because, I mean, we're signing a guy from the Ukrainian league, no matter how much money he's going to come for, you don't know how quickly he's going to settle in.
Yeah. I mean, Euro expert seems to think Mudryk's amazing, even in the Champions League. So, but that guy's twerking for Arsenal, so unless he changes his mind, he can do one as well.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Sky Sky Cav or whatever that reported yesterday that
you know,
as much as Mudryk wants to join Arsenal, if he ends up going to Happy, he was going to be equally as happy
well,
with that.
The thing is that David Ornstein said similar. He said on NBC yesterday, he said as much as he's made it clear his priority would be Arsenal, his actual priority is the Premier League. So, I mean, well, that doesn't rule us out, does it? So, I don't know. That's another signing anyway, maybe. Who knows?
There you go. Fair play. Clutch, let me get to you. What are your thoughts on this Thuram situation? Is your issue with the player, or is it more with the priorities just being wrong, or are you actually a fan of the whole thing?
For 10 million, I don't think it's a bad idea. I wouldn't like to see him on the wing anymore. But if he came to play striker, that means we're going to get rid of Aubameyang, and I'm a big fan of that. Big fan. I think for me, he would be a good depth option, and we could see what happens. But again, if he comes in and then we kind of see Pulisic leave, I don't think that's a great option because, one, I think there are 2 totally different types of players, and you could use them differently in different regards. So that's how I'd see that. But I don't think he'd be a bad player to have. I don't think he's going to change a lot. I don't think he's going to be like the guy to come in and all of a sudden he's going to get us 10 goals and get us somewhere higher in the thing. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, obviously, like we said before, the priority should be a creator. The priority should be a backup right back, so we don't have to see Aspie struggle anymore on the right-hand side. Like, those are the 2 things we need. But, and this guy does not check either of those boxes. So I don't think it would be a bad signing for 10 million. Like, I think you could actually try it and see what happens, because what's the worst that $10 million is going to, like, you just lose 10 million in this sport. It's not that much. So I don't think it would be a bad idea.
It's very true. You know what?
We signed Caicedo for more, by the way. Just saying, he's in the academy.
Yeah, very much.
And aren't we going to loan him out?
Like, that's what I mean. Like, this is so cheap that, like, we've spent more on kids that might not even ever play for us.
Yeah, no. That is a fair point to make as well. I still feel like just for taking up a squad place, I'm not sure if it's ideal, because if he's going to be used as a striker, like, what does that mean for Broja? Now, obviously, Broja just did his ACL, but Broja is still much younger than Marcus Thuram. And because of, like, compare them when they were the same age. At this age, I would argue Broja did more than Marcus Thuram at that age. Now, am I an expert on Marcus Thuram at that age? No, but I certainly hadn't heard of Marcus Thuram at that age. Excuse me. But... you know, for me, I know Clutch just said to him as a striker would make more sense. Now, the whole replacing Aubameyang, okay, maybe if you think about it that way, I can see that. I don't see Aubameyang leaving now in January. I don't know.
We're manifesting it.
Yeah, but even then, is that like there's much more important things that we should be manifesting. Like, I mean, Aubameyang could just sit on the bench and he's not an issue. You know, let him sit on the bench, whether we sign Thuram or not. Aubameyang can just sit on the bench. It doesn't really change anything. I don't think he's enough of a big option here at Chelsea yet, because obviously with how little he's been involved, that he's going to be able to cause too much drama. So I'm like, just leave him there. Do you know what I mean? Who cares? I'm not even going to, like, imagine trying to figure out where to sell him to. You know, it's going to be just that in itself is going to be difficult because who the flip would be stupid enough to sign him, quite frankly? Do you know what I mean? Where he would also be willing to go. So, I don't really, for me, Thuram would arguably make more sense as a winger option. But if he doesn't play winger anymore, then I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But what else can we say? Let's take it to a slightly, we'll discuss now how positive, but to a slightly more positive note, because Chelsea decided today would be a good day to announce all the signings we've made. Now, obviously, Badiashile was announced Thursday, even though it was announced today that he would take now vacant number 4, left obviously by Andreas Christensen as his squad number. But we have finally officially announced the signing of Datro Fofana. Of course, we all knew that. He was already with the team essentially when we played against Forest on January 1st. So, we all knew that he was here and that we signed him, but now it's been made official. Let's just quickly read through what Chelsea said about it. Chelsea Football Club has finalised the transfer of Datro Fofana from Norwegian champions Molde, with the young striker signing a contract until 2029 with an option to extend for a further year. So, Badiashile signed 7.5 years straight. Fofana signed 6.5 plus the option for another. The Ivorian returned 20 last month, enjoyed a breakthrough 2022 in Norway, showing himself to be a prolific goal scorer and one of European football's most promising young talent. Fair enough. On completing the move to Stamford Bridge, Fofana said, "Hello, dear fans. I'm here. I've arrived well, and I'm very happy to sign for the club of my dreams. I'll see you soon on the pitch. Cheers." Despite his young age, Fofana has an impressive 34 goal involvements in 65 appearances for Molde, with 24 goals and 10 assists in all competitions since joining the club from the Amadou Diallo Football Academy in his homeland at the start of 2021. Of the 2021 campaign in Norway. He recently made his first full senior international start for the Ivory Coast, 3 years after debuting for a national side featuring exclusively domestic-based players. The Ivorian's combination of pace, skill, and strength make him a versatile striker capable of scoring goals, but especially adept at holding up the ball and retaining possession under pressure. Welcome to Chelsea, David. Okay, now, then it is not in this one, but I read somewhere earlier that Fofana hopes to be involved in the squad tomorrow. That obviously won't start, but apparently
he was training today, wasn't he? He was training today, so I guess he's available.
Yeah, but he's can't forget he's in his off season because the Norwegian league runs from March to November, like the Brazilian league. So he's not been in training. So is the guy fit at all? I would be surprised if he is in terms of match fit.
Still better than Aubameyang.
Well, probably true. But Charlie, I'll just stick with you. Thoughts on this one? It gives me a little bit more hope because I genuinely, when he was there at Forest and stuff, I was like, are we even going to announce him? Or is he that much not of a first team signing that we're going to keep him in the under 21s until we've signed another club for multi-club model and then we're going to ship him there? But now that we have at least given him a proper announcement and said that he hopes to be involved with the weekend, on the weekend against City, a little bit more, I'm like, okay, at least it's another player. But do you think he will be of any benefit for us this season? Or what do you reckon?
Absolutely no idea, because I'd never heard of him before we signed him. So I don't really know how good he is. Obviously, he's got a few goals in Norway. No disrespect to that league, but that doesn't really account for much when making a step up to the Premier League. Obviously, it's shown he can score goals at that level, but this is a huge step up. Obviously, he loves the club. He wants to be here. He's a Chelsea fan. You can see he's delighted to be here. We need more players that love the club and actually want to play for the club. So that's obviously a big plus. But in terms of his footballing ability, I don't really know.
So did Lukaku,
Well, yeah, but but I think this is a bit different, though.
That guy's full of shit. He was kissing the Everton badge. He kissed the Man U badge. He kissed the Chelsea badge. He kissed every badge in history of the club he's been at. We just fell for that PR.
But there was only one stadium he was at when he was 15. You know what I mean?
That's true, but the guy is he's the biggest PR merchant ever.
Mate.
But I don't know. I think can make a difference.
Can you imagine, right? I swear to you, imagine just hypothetically he came back in January, Lukaku. I bet you he'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. This is my dream still," and all that.
Yeah, he would.
He would.
Little shit, honestly, yeah, he would.
Did you guys see him getting laughed at for his touch the other day? That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
That was very funny, to be fair. That was very funny. Charlie, sorry.
I don't know how much difference he could make. There's obviously an option there that he could take Broja's place in the squad for the rest of the season if we don't end up bringing a forward in. But if we bring in Thuram, then I guess Thuram takes that space. I don't really know. Fofana, obviously, he could play some part, but I expect to see him very sparingly used. I'd be surprised if he featured a lot, but I think in terms of him going out on loan, they might wait towards the end of the window, depending on who has and hasn't come in. I guess that'll then kind of make the decision for him. But yeah, in terms of what he can do for us, like in the next 6 months if he stays, I don't really know, because I haven't watched enough of him to make a judgment. But you know, it could make a difference just having someone that's young, hungry, and wants to impress.
Fair play. Pies, I'll go to you. Thoughts, David Datro Fofana? Obviously, we touched on him before in slight detail, but now it's officially announced. Thoughts, like, do you think he will be involved much, if at all, this season?
No, I don't think so, personally. No, I don't think so. It's a massive step up. I think if we sign Thuram as well, we would have Aubameyang if he stays, Havertz, Thuram. Like, I think Fofana as well. Like, obviously, when I spoke to that Norwegian journalist, he said he does also play on the right hand side, and some of his Molde teammates actually think he's a better winger than he is striker. So potentially, but then
right hand side. That's where your expert said he always drifts off over to the left, but I could be wrong.
No, not according to what he told me in his works in Norway. But I think it's an interesting sign. Of course, you never know with these young talents. Hopefully, we'll buy one that turns into because you know how we keep buying these young talents. Like, Mudrik's now like £80 million or something. Like, we need to find one of those and develop him into that £80 million player. But obviously, it's very hard with Chelsea and expectations and all that. But yeah,
I mean, we have done it before on a few occasions. Like, obviously, Courtois, De Bruyne. I mean, Lukaku in a way. Like, obviously, we sold him too early then, but in a sense, we've done this before, signing just super young players from when no one had ever heard of them. But we just scouted them.
Mega bucks though.
Turned out to be big players.
Yeah, turned out to be big, but we've never really benefited in terms of like mega bucks, like 70, 80, 90 million, £100 sales.
We benefited with Courtois though, because I mean, as much as he's a twat at the end, still won us the league. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but I mean in terms of flipping them on for profit, because that's essentially what these new owners want to do as well. So, yeah.
We'll see. Clutch, your thoughts, David Datro Fofana? Do you see him at all featuring much this season? I guess all of it really depends on what Potter thinks of him in training. Like, if he impresses in training, he will be involved. If it doesn't impress in training, he will not be. So it's really all down to him, rather than anything that we can now predict, if we're being honest. But what do you predict?
I do see him get some time. I mean, obviously, it's not like we have people flying in the striker department right now, and we'll see. I guess it's just all up to him at this point. If he gets his opportunities and he takes it, I could see him sending Aubameyang to the bench permanently, or even off to the reserves. It's just all dependent. We'll see. I do think he'll get opportunities, so we'll see how far he takes it himself.
It's obviously the difficult part for anyone like this is now that, well, tomorrow may or may not be our last cup game of the season. So if we don't have cup games, in what type of games do you give a player like that his chance? I mean, you're not going to do it against Dortmund in the Champions League. You're not going to do it in the Champions League quarterfinal if we do get there. And are you really going to do it in the Premier League? That's why I'm like, if we had, tomorrow in the cup played a League 2 team, maybe he would even get involved there. There is a chance in the fourth round we get another League 1 or Championship opponent. Absolutely. But because we play City tomorrow and that might well be the end of it, then when do you play him? That's kind of where I'm like, but hey, who knows? Again, if he impresses in training, I'm sure he will be involved. But we didn't just announce David Datro Fofana. I'm still not sure what to call him by constantly, because, I mean, his first name is clearly David, but his Twitter is Datro. So maybe he prefers the whole Datro thing. And I always, Datro Fofana is also a bit more unique, David. Do you know what I mean? But Chelsea...
Hey. That's fine.
Yeah, but see, we also call you Clutch, not David, don't we? So, but Chelsea have also announced another signing who seemingly has now got his work permit, I think. Otherwise, we wouldn't have announced him yet. But I could be wrong. Young Brazilian midfielder Andrey Santos, joins Chelsea. Chelsea have completed the signing of teenage midfielder Andrey Santos from Brazilian club Vasco da Gama. The 18-year-old has progressed through the ranks at Vasco, his boyhood club, and helped them to promotion to the top flight with a third-place finish in Serie B last term. direct promotion when you come third. Fair play. During which he played 33 times and scored 8 goals. Not bad, but I mean, it's the Brazilian second division, so it's not, jumping on too soon. But again, he did still get promoted. So essentially, he's kind of now a Brazilian first team player, but Brazilian first division player. But he just hasn't played there yet. On signing for Chelsea, Santos said, it's a very big opportunity for me. There's a big club playing in big competitions like the Premier League. So I am very excited. The players here are so good, and I am very happy to be here. I'm not sure which players you're talking about, but I would love to see I would love to see those players. Santos made his debut at just 17 as a late substitute in the Campeonato Carioca.
He is Brazilian, so he's probably talking about Thiago Silva, let's be honest.
Probably. A tournament for teams in the local area of Rio de Janeiro. He played most of that campaign for the club's under 20 sides and impressed in a box-to-box midfield role in which he regularly contributed with goals and assists. His league debut came on the final day of the 2021 season before he became a more prominent figure in the 2022 campaign, just finished, and earning himself a regular spot in the midfield trio. Born in Rio, he has represented Brazil up to the under-20s level and now makes the move to London. Welcome to Chelsea, Andrey. Again, just to clarify, like in Norway, the Brazilian football season runs from, I think, March to like November or so. So, that's why they saw like 2021 season, 2022 season. That's why they're so specific about that. I'll just switch the order around. Basically, similar questions. Clutch, do you think he will be involved whatsoever? I mean, he probably has even less of a chance and is already even less likely than Fofana. Or do you disagree with that?
I don't think he'll be involved in the first team this year, to be honest. I could see him being like Caicedo a little bit, basically putting him down there, see how he does down there, and if he impresses well enough down there, he might get put up top. But I don't see it happening, to be honest, off the start. I mean, I just don't see that. It could be, obviously, but I really don't think so.
Faz, Charlie, what about you? Similar thoughts to Clutch there?
Yeah, I don't see him featuring. Again, it depends on the work permit situation. It doesn't say in that kind of in that release on the club website that, he does or doesn't still need a work permit. I don't know if he does. Obviously, that situation, if he does need a work permit, then he would obviously have to go out on loan in order to play the relevant minutes to qualify for one. But no, I'd be very surprised if we saw him play for the first team this season. I think he'll be one that'll either go on loan or he'll join Caicedo in the 21s.
Yeah, no, it could well be the case. Absolutely. It's a tricky one because, it's also a position where, as much as we lack creative players in this position, it's also one of the positions where we're most stacked as it is anyway. Now, you could argue that we lack certain abilities in this position, whether it's with Gallagher or others. But we have Gallagher who can play as an 8, Mount who can play as an 8, Kovacic who can play as an 8, Zakaria who can play as an 8, slightly less offensive 8, but still as an 8. And there's also Carney Chukwuemeka. And theoretically, you'd have a Caicedo as well. So, yeah, I probably agree with you guys. But Pice, do you see it that way as well? Or do you somehow see a way in which he could actually feature this season? I mean, he was given a squad number. Does Caicedo have a first-team squad number? I don't think so.
I'm not sure if that means anything, but I know Slanina Fofana also got one as well.
Billy Gilmore had one.
Who?
What?
Billy Gilmore had one before we loaned him out.
Yeah, because he was in the squad. So
that's the point. It doesn't just the squad number means nothing, is what I'm saying.
No. But Caicedo doesn't have a first-team number. So that's why I made the comparison.
Oh. Well, I just never saw Caicedo ever playing, and I don't think they ever did either.
Well, bloody hope they did. Sorry, Pice, go on.
No, I agree with the guys. I don't think he'll feature at all. What I will say is Brazil Edition on Twitter is like one of the biggest Brazilian-based accounts. He really rates him. He says that he's really good. He's like, in terms of his physical attributes, his tackling and stuff, he's well above his age. And he said, like, I was speaking to him and he said, like, it's really interesting because he plays box to box, but his attributes, like his best attributes are tackling and strength. So he said, like, he's also, for me, could be like a DM as well. So, I mean, it's an interesting signing, but yeah, some Brazilian guys definitely rate him, but we'll see. One for the future, I think.
Yeah. I mean, let's hope so. Let's hope so. It's difficult to judge. I mean, he's 18. He's played in the Brazilian second division so far. I would see the step up to directly play much for the first team just so big that I just very much doubt that. But hey, like you say, a lot of people in Brazil have hyped him very, very much. So, like, maybe there's more to it. And, you know, some players manage to take the step very easily. Some struggle with it more. So I guess we will just have to wait and see. Before we move on to the next little topic, Super chat by Definite. Appreciate it very much. He says, all three should play, but we will loan them to death. Who's the third? Casanay?
Why should all three should play, by the way? This fan base wants results, and they're talking about standards, and you want to throw an 18-year-old from the Brazilian second division straight into our first team. Like,
exactly.
Come on, guys.
I mean, at the same time, we threw Lewis Hall into the first team from, well, amateur football. So, you know, and he did well.
True, but
So
he's been developed and nurtured in our academy, hasn't he, for a while? So, you know, this guy's like, it's a completely different country. Barely even knows the bloody teammates yet. Like,
no, exactly. I agree with that. I mean, for Fofana, obviously, he's done a little something in Europe, but I mean, it's Norway. Again, I can only repeat that very same thing. The fact that Erling Haaland went from Norway to Austria as a step up shows you where the Norwegian league is, like what level it's at. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, and that's all I really need to say. And the Austrian league's no good. Like, trust me, it's no good. So, you know, the fact that that was a step up doesn't exactly scream, oh, amazing, for Fofana coming from Molde in Norway. But again, I'm still not 100% sure who the third person you're talking about is. Is it Casadai? Are you talking about Badiashile? Because Badiashile will play. Not sure how much, but he will play, that's for sure. But yeah, next thing we need to talk about is, I mean, he was already injured, but on the way back, Edouard Mendy, from some sort of issue that he had at the World Cup around his ribcage. But Chelsea have announced today that Edouard Mendy has undergone an operation on his fractured finger sustained in training this week. Come back, stronger, Edu. Okay. I mean, no, obviously he's been playing at the moment anyways, and even though Kepa obviously had a huge stinker in terms of the one individual howler against City for that goal, you know, Mendy probably wouldn't have played much anyway, but it's still just tops things off for us, doesn't it? Like, as if we didn't have enough issues, Mendy, who was already injured, picks up an even worse injury and needs surgery. But it's not just that. I mean, Raheem Sterling got injured, Christian Pulisic got injured. Let's just name on injuries. Sterling, Pulisic, Reece James, Ben Chilwell, N'Golo Kante, Loftus-Cheek, Fofana. Did I say Chilwell already?
Yes.
Okay. Who else am I missing then? Broja. Where's it?
James.
He said James. Mendy. You haven't said Mendy yet.
Mendy and Mount, of course, because obviously he missed the last one. So I think that was either 9 or 10. Maybe I'm still missing someone, but it's an unbearable amount of injuries. I think maybe actually in the Super Chat independent, but maybe we're talking about Slonina, potentially. I'll touch on him in a second as well. Or we'll touch on it when we go through the team, potentially. But what do we do now? We don't know how long Sterling's out for. We don't know how long Christian Pulisic is out for. I don't think there was a specific dedicated press conference to this game, or that it was, I think, a pre-match part in the post-match press on Thursday.
It's coming out at 10:30 tonight, by the way.
Yeah, but I still think it all comes from the post-match press on Thursday. They just split that into a post-match and a pre-match for the FA Cup game. That's what we always did when we played Europa League in Sarri season.
Yeah,
we never had a weekend press conference. So, but for the cup, we sometimes did. So who knows? But at least so far, we don't know. But at the information levels we have on Pulisic is that Potter said, well, he has had some contact on his knee. Not actually sure there was actual physical contact on his knee, but it seems like it's a knee injury. He said he hopes it's not too bad, but I guess we don't know. Clutch, when we were talking in a group chat, made the somewhat valid point that we know Sterling was sent to have a scan on his hamstring injury. No one said anything about Pulisic having a scan, which probably, considering it's a knee injury, probably means it's not that bad, because you would have a scan just to be sure on most knee issues. I'm sure there is some exceptions. None of us are doctors. I'm sure there are some exceptions where you wouldn't, and it still keeps you out for a few weeks. But more than likely, you would have a scan if anything serious going on. So maybe he won't be out for too long. But how quickly Sterling went off, I mean, he tried to run it off a little bit on the sidelines, but, you know, immediately was like, nah, I can't play. He will probably be out for a couple of weeks, you know, maybe 4 weeks, who knows. what do we do? Like, I'm not even talking about the team and for tomorrow specifically, but what do we do now? Do we now stick to the shape? Do we now shift around the formation just because we don't have enough available players for the current positions? I mean, in terms of actual wingers, we have one now, and that's Hakim Ziyech. And you could debate whether he's even a real winger. So even though he plays on a wing, is he a real winger? Because obviously he's a creative player that likes to like drop deep and play from there, like drop deep but in the wide area still. So he's not like, at least not a traditional winger, let's say. And then Chukwuemeka, who's not a winger either, but who played on the wing. And then the other option is probably Aubameyang on the wing or Havertz on the wing. Do you know what I mean? So like,
or Hutchinson, but
sorry?
I was going to say or Hutchinson, but the poor kid looked really out of his depth. Yeah, he looked really out of his depth.
But I think people were a bit harsh on him as well. Like, obviously, he wasn't great, but I mean, there's a lot of pressure. And he's, 18? He played really well against Aston Villa. Sorry?
Laurenz, that's exactly what I mean. You look at Lewis Hall, you look at Hutchinson. Lewis Hall is ready for Chelsea. Like, it's clear as day. He was not scared at all. He was literally taking on Man City players. And, like, Hutchinson was very, very scared. It was very...
Yeah, but Lewis Hall's had way more first-team action than Hutchinson has, so it's understandable.
But also, to be fair, first time Lewis Hall played, looked more ready than Hutchinson did last game.
Yeah, Hall's only played like 3 games for us. It's not that much.
Yeah, but I will still... No, it's been more than 3. It's been 3 this season, I think. But still, it doesn't really matter. What I still think, like, players, when he's 18, he might have just had a bad day. Do you know what I mean? Like, no player is going to be perfectly consistent. I'm sure we will have Lewis Hall have a bad day eventually. That doesn't necessarily, and that doesn't mean he's now not ready anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, it will happen.
No,
maybe that was just happen. But I also will say it's, you know, we also did play against Man City, and as much as we wanted to go a big gung-ho and everything at the end, because just go for it, which, by the way, annoyed me. I said it to you, Clutch, in the player ratings stream after the game. Did that not piss both of you off? I'll start with you, Pies. Like, we were 1-0 down. We had, 4 minutes of injury time. Why didn't we throw the kitchen sink at it? Throw Koulibaly up top and punt the ball in the box, man. Like, even if we conceded 2-0, who gives a shit? Like, at least try to get a draw at the end.
Laurenz, the problem was actually getting the fucking ball. it was.
No, I feel like we had the ball constantly for the last 10-15 minutes. City just parked the ball.
No, it was so painful watching, bro. The City were ridiculous. They had the ball all the time.
No, at the end we dominated the game, man. The City just set back.
The only time we had the ball, Laurenz, was when we hit them on the counters and they lost the ball.
No, genuinely, I'm telling you. They even said it on TV. The last 10 minutes, we had, I think, 64% possession.
We had a small...
I can only tell you what the stat said on screen, bro.
We had a small, tiny spell where we had the ball, and that was it. There was a spell in the first half, and then I'm not saying
it was 52 to 48.
I'm just saying City sat deep and sort out the result. That's all. That's why we had the ball. I'm not saying because we were so great, but still, like, we had the ball enough to punt it into the box, and at least, when Liverpool are losing, they throw Van Dijk up top. When Real Madrid and Ramos were still there, were losing, they throw Ramos up top. When Barcelona are losing, they throw bloody PK up top before he retired now. Even United this season, when I've seen them losing, they threw Varane up top. Like, again, we were 1-0 down. There was nothing to lose. Why didn't we just go for it? I don't know. But hey, it doesn't matter anyway. It probably wouldn't have worked out. So it doesn't really change anything. But it still annoys me. But yeah, I mean, Pies, what do we do now? Because... like, what would you do? Like, do you stick to the 3-4-3, even though we don't have wingers? Do you just play Chukwuemeka and Ziyech then now? Or, like, what do we do now? And I'm not even just talking about this game. Presumably, most of these players, maybe Pulisic is back to Fulham, but let's just assume he's not. Then it's not a cup game, it's a Prem game. What do we do?
I think we have to stay consistent and keep the 4, to be honest.
Back 4, sure, but I mean, I guess we could play a 4-4-2 diamond, theoretically, and not have wingers.
No, I would still have wingers, but it's going to be hard. We've not got many options. I mean, we'll discuss about it, but yeah.
It's a tough one. Charlie, firstly, did you question that when you were in the stadium? Like, why don't we at least, like, try to chuck the kitchen sink at it? Or did it just not feel that way, like Pies is saying? Did it just not feel that was ever on in the stadium?
Didn't really feel like it was on, and we never shoot anyway. So, we never take any shots on goal. So, yeah, it didn't feel like it was on. Said City kept the ball pretty well. Maybe we should go for it more when there's that little time left. But, ultimately, like, I don't know how much difference it really would have made. So yeah, it's not. I wasn't that fussed by it that we didn't go for it more. In all honesty, but in terms of what we're going to do, I think we just have to stick with what we've been doing. You know, we need some consistency. I know, obviously, players being out, it's hard to get consistency going with that. But you know, players that played well. I think, obviously, you know, Chukwuemeka needs to feature again, whether that's in midfield, whether that's wide. I thought he did pretty well in that kind of widest position, whether it's him and Ziyech, whether it's Hutchinson from the off. I don't really know, but we've got to try and I think we need to stick with the 4, and we've got to try and, you know, keep as much continuity as possible, which is obviously easier said than done when you've got 10 first-team players out injured. But we've got to try and do it kind of to the best of our ability because, you know, if we're set on playing a system, then we just need to try and do it, providing the options we put out there aren't, you know, absolutely shocking. So, yeah, I'd stick with the 4-3-3. But again, yeah, there are going to be a severe lack of options.
Was it even a 4-3-3? I thought it was more like a 4-2-3-1.
It was a bit. It probably was a bit more 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, because I felt like Havertz was playing as a 10
against City. It probably was. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, 4-2-3-1.
Once Mount is back, it will be a 4-3-3 again. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I mean 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, but we need to stick with it and just kind of see what we can do, basically.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's a very difficult one. Maybe I should have only brought this up once we talk about the team because it kind of interlinks topically. But Clutch, just lastly, same question to you. It'd be weird if I didn't ask you the question. What do you think we should be doing now? Like, we're at such a point where I'm like, because not only do we have 10 injuries, and we kind of suffered that already this season, that if you have injuries, all the non-injured players probably need to play more than they probably should anyway. And that makes you more likely to get even more injuries. Like, that's how Ruben got injured in that Newcastle game, because Ruben just basically played every game like this season. But it was under Tuchel at the beginning, and then Potter later, he played most games. Like, he had, after Havertz or after Mount, the most games in which he reached it. That's probably why he got it. Muscle injury in the end. So, you know, that is also a problem that we need to consider. Like, yeah, I mean, we can, like, none of us like Aubameyang, but we can't just play Havertz every single game. So we need to figure something out, man.
I mean, that is true. I do agree that we should probably keep things a little bit relatively the same. I disagree that City were just absolutely as dominant as they said they were. Because in the first half, until towards the second part of the first half, like, we actually held City pretty well in a lot of. I think Erling Haaland didn't even have a touch until like the 35th minute or something like that. Like, that's not entirely City doing everything they wanted to. And in fact, Pep had to change the system because he took off both Cancelo and Kyle Walker and put on the 18-year-old, who's the person who made the biggest difference in the game for them, probably. I do think it is going to be hard because you are facing Pep, one of the best tactical managers in the world, if not the best. Well, he is the best. But so he's going to be ready for what we kind of throw at him. So I think you are going to have to change it a little bit, but not like terribly a lot. Because, I mean, how are you going to change it? A whole bunch, because you just don't have enough players to do it. So for me, I'm like, you might as well stick with it, see what we can do. And then as long as we don't, I mean, I think Jorginho will end up playing, but I don't think maybe we'll see.
That's the next difficult one. Like, I mean, we'll get to that when we get to the team, but you know, there was some argument to say, well, the way we at least worked the midfield kind of worked against City. So do you now throw Jorginho in? It's a difficult one. The last topic I want to talk about, unless Pies reminds me of some news, which I forgot, before we get into the team, and I know Charlie doesn't have that much longer left, but I do still want to talk about this, is, and I've not really been one to bring that up too much yet. It's also, in general, we've been, all of the people mostly on this channel have been quite positive about it. But what are our thoughts about the whole ownership situation at the moment? And I'll start with you, Charlie, because it just seems like the whole Enzo thing, the whole not going after players that at least us fans are pretty much in agreement we need, not as an individual specific players, but positionally. And now randomly interested in Thuram. None of us think we need Mudryk as much as we could do with, like, he's not a creative player either, right? Or unless I'm mistaken, but that's not how he was sold to me anyway. Like, still, not saying he's a bad player, but not a creative player. So what are we doing? And the whole medical debacle, like, apparently they have now concerns. So maybe they will change it again from what they thought was a good idea to how to run it. But at the moment, that's like much more than Potter. At the moment, I'm much more concerned about the ownership because I'm like, I thought knew what you were doing, at least from a business point of view. I didn't expect them to be football experts, but I expected them to be business experts. And at the moment, it just seems so many wrong decisions, so much wrong prioritization. It's all over the shop to me. But obviously, it's just a bad time, injuries, bad form. So maybe it piles up, and that's why it got me annoyed and kind of questioning things. But I'm not happy at the moment. How do you feel about the situation?
I think it's kind of obviously when things aren't going well on the pitch, these things tend to get highlighted more. Whereas, if we were doing well and we were winning, we'd kind of probably overlook it a little bit more. I like a lot of what Boehly's done since he's come in. There have been some decisions that I think have been poor in terms of, particularly this January window, what from the outside looks like a kind of just a distinct lack of a bit of a plan, really. I like the fact they're ballsy and they're opportunistic with the Enzo thing, and then you hear that they just kind of go in and lowballed, and you just think, well, how have these guys made any money and been successful businessmen when they've gone in and spent 3 days negotiating to just be sent home like naughty schoolboys from the Benfica offices? Like,
as
what are we doing?
Deal that apparently Vivel was involved with. Like, is there a worse first introduction to your new role? Like, can it go any worse than that?
It just seems a bit amateurish, like in certain aspects. I'm not saying it is, because obviously none of us are there and we don't know. But from what the public perception that gets given off is that it seems like we've behaved in an amateurish way in these Enzo negotiations. I like a lot of the transfer business they've done. They're bold, they're brash, they go out there and they put the money on the table and they sign players. I like the fact we're planning for the future and bringing some of the best youngsters in. I like the fact that we're kind of doing forward-thinking business with kind of Badiashile coming in already, looking to the future once Thiago Silva moves off, kind of proactive business rather than reactive business. But at the same time, there are a few occasions where I've just looked at it and I think, yeah, these guys are still learning on the job as well. Some of the way they've negotiated over certain deals and things like that. And I think that just comes, people, say that, Potter's out of his depth and he's still learning. These guys are out of their depth a bit as well. They've never owned a football club before,
that's the problem that we're having at the moment.
So there's a lot of teething issues
learning on the job right now, and that has a negative effect on the whole club. And I think that's an inevitable thing. And maybe this is something that we all underestimate a little bit, because all of us were like, obviously when Roman was supposed to sell, we were like, okay, let's get this over the line, and then we had it obviously done in June or whatever. I think maybe all of us underestimate a little bit how this would impact at least one season after. You think that potentially?
Yeah, quite possibly. But I said they're learning on the job. There's not much time. We need a lot of players. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of negotiations to do. There's a lot of meetings to attend. There's a lot of all sorts. Boehly's got to continue to meet people, get good contacts, form good relationships with clubs. I hope we've not damaged the Benfica relationship too much with this scenario, because they sign a lot of good players. They sell a lot of good players with big profit. You only have to look at the list of players that Benfica have sold over the years, and it's ridiculous. So hopefully we can perhaps patch that relationship up with them. But yeah, we've just got to be a bit smarter with what we're doing. It almost seems like we were kind of taking the piss. I know we don't want to pay 120 million euros up in one go.
And that's absolutely fine, by the way.
And that's fine. But if don't waste 3 days or best part of a week to find that out. That could be found out in 5 minutes. That's what I don't quite understand.
And if you want to go in with a low ball offer, go in with a low ball offer a day in, because then you can at least feel out, is there something we could do, or are they just going to say straight no and not need a week to figure that out? Like you said, it's just crazy. Pies, I feel like you wanted to add something when I mentioned the whole Vivel first transfer thing. So if you wanted to add something to that, please do. And otherwise, same question as opposed to Charlie.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say on the whole Vivel thing, I would be very careful with obviously criticizing too much with the Enzo deal, because you got to remember that Boehly and Egbali are actually even though he's negotiating, Boehly's essentially telling him what to do, this is how much we've got. Boehly's not. Well, because Boehly's not just stepped back and gone, okay, just do what you want kind of thing. He's still there behind the scenes, very active. So it's like he's like Egbali and Boehly, they're the ones that set the budget. Vivel's not just, if Vivel had a choice to spend 105 million. He might well do, but Boehly's still and Egbali is still the ones telling him like this is how much we got to spend.
Absolutely, but you never gave Marina that excuse. Roman gave her the budget.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Marina had as much money to spend as she was given by Roman Abramovich. And you never said, well, it's not Marina's fault because she didn't get more money to spend. So
my problem was
if Vivell led the negotiations and spent nearly a week talking to them, telling them, reportedly, we don't know, maybe this is wrong. Actually.
Yeah, Marina would have spent
reportedly telling them we're going to pay around 120, maybe even more, so we don't have to do the release clause thing because we can't pay it up front. And then you go in with an 85 million offer, then that's weird. And that's a negotiation tactic. That has nothing to do with Boehly.
No, that instruction comes from Boehly. That's not whereas with Marina, Roman wasn't behind the scenes active at all. Boehly is. It's completely different circumstances. And also, Marina would have took 25 days and then panic signed someone on the last day. So as much as we was annoyed over
that may be true. I'm not saying she wouldn't have taken even longer, but that doesn't make this good. Because I disagree that it's like Boehly will say, okay, we want to buy Fernandez. You have so much money. This part, I agree with you completely. But then if he sends Vivell to negotiate, he's not going to tell him how to negotiate because otherwise he would have just gone himself.
Well,
what's the point in sending a negotiator if you don't let him negotiate?
That's what I'm saying. I'm genuinely unsure whether that is like.
Well, then, if you're right, then I'm even more concerned.
But Egbali, all I know is Egbali. He's very, very controlling. This is what I know. So I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't mind be controlling. Then, if you're controlling, good.
Maybe they'll take a step back in the future, but right now they're very like in with all the deals. Like they're kind of like the bosses, even though they sent Vivell to negotiate, kind of thing. Like it's There you go. But
what's your feeling? Even if I disagree with that, it doesn't really matter.
On what?
What's your overall feeling on like? Do you know where I'm coming from when I'm saying like I'm concerned about some of the ownership things at the moment? Just because I just don't.
I mean,
go on.
I'm just a little bit concerned with like. Well, first off, I'm very concerned with the whole injury thing. The whole like what I've read from Nazar, they've like what is this bullshit? A private physiotherapy firm that's used by celebrities. I mean, what are we here? Are we taking the piss? Like that clearly wasn't a good decision if that was true. Like, I mean, they've got to revamp the whole medical department. I don't know how when they did that 100-day review, the first thing they didn't do was, the first thing they didn't do was obviously revamp that department. Like, you look at our injuries last season, was that like you don't have to be a genius to figure out we was in massive trouble with that? Like, does that not like flick something in your head? Like, oh my God, we need to sort this out. Oh no, you're just going to get rid of the manager first, make a load of new signings and do everything else. Like, for God's sake, they're doing the bloody stadium, starting the stadium before they're doing the injuries. Like, sort it out. That's the main thing I'm concerned with. And also, like, it does seem to be a little bit of, like the Mudryk one kind of just, that kind of annoyed me a little bit because I genuinely think they're just doing that to piss Arsenal off, and that's not a transfer strategy.
Yeah. Like, again, if we were in a title race with them, fair enough. Then maybe this is exactly the kind of, shithouse, like off the pitch stuff that we should be doing. But we're 10th. Don't worry about Arsenal, man.
Exactly. That's not a transfer strategy. So, like, it does seem to be, and maybe we do have to kind of be a little bit reactive now, but that doesn't mean you just sign anyone. So, yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that Mudryk and Thuram are not bad, are bad players, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be like this at least for, potentially even next summer, because obviously, like, we've got people in, but what concerned me a little bit is we've got loads of people in, and they're all going to have different opinions. I remember speaking to Ben Jacobs, and he said like the idea essentially is to give them all a say and all an opinion, and it kind of be like a vote. And I'm thinking, well, that's just going to be a massive clusterfuck. Like everyone's going to think different things, and then people are going to get pissed off when they don't get who they want, and it's like. Oh, I don't know.
I mean, in general, that is how most businesses are run, though, right? In the grand scheme of things, like, you just have to obviously get those, like what you're saying in terms of the people that vote, they just have to be good people. Then I guess it can, then it can work out.
It's more of like, I don't know.
If some of them are bad people and they have bad opinions, then it won't.
It's more of like, I don't know whether it's like, obviously I'm angry about the injury stuff, but the rest of it is like, I'm just more like, I don't know, let's kind of see how it plays out type of thing. Like, I'm not like fully sold on them yet. Like, obviously they've done good things for us already, but I don't know. Like, I'd love to meet them and speak to them because I think you then get a better idea. But just from like all we've got to go off really is the media and how they act, and obviously the media can be kind of, I don't know, pushy, shovey, kind of like throw things in, their way anyway. So I don't know. It's a hard one to judge really at the moment.
There you go. Fair play, fair play. Before I pose this question to Clutch, unfortunately, Charlie needs to leave us. Please, ladies and gentlemen, do subscribe to his channel. Link is, as always, down in the description. The Blues Brothers, please do check it out and check out his stream once we're done with ours. Charlie, thank you. Obviously, you kind of touched on already anyway that you would like to stick with the 4-3-3. How we're going to fill it, we're going to pick that ourselves. But, are you going to Manchester tomorrow?
No, mate, I could have done, but the travel's a nightmare. I'm not doing a coach there and back. So yeah, I'm not going.
No, fair play. All right, mate. Well, cheers for giving us the time as always. And again, we'll see you soon. Everybody.
No, pleasure, lads. Catch you all soon, boys. See you later.
Cheers, man. Clutch, question to you. What are your feelings about the ownership at the moment? Like, do you think they're doing things drastically wrong right now? Do you think it's purely a little bit of give them a little bit of time? They also need to get used to, doing things in this space, I guess. Or do you just think, well, they're doing things wrong and now we just have to hope and pray that they learn?
I think it's very much trial and error. I think it's a young ownership. It's not young, but young in the respect of like, this is a brand new sport that they're coming to deal with. It's not Major League Baseball in America. It's a very different type of negotiation. Things are very different. It seems like their idea right now is to go get young talent and hope that it builds into something, which sure, that's great. That's fantastic. But you also need to go and buy certain areas. You need to do certain things. And I think the negotiations with Benfica for Enzo, even though I don't think, because we don't know the entire story, I don't know exactly how it went, but if you did tell them like, hey, we're going to pay the whole 120, and you did say the words like, we're going to pay it up front to you, like that's what we're going to do, we're going to pay it all entirely, and you didn't kind of make it clear like, hey, we would pay more than that, but it would only be in installments. And then you kind of say, hey, 85 million off the bat, like that's just not good. That's like, that's stupid. Like you shouldn't do that. But because I understand trying to get
That made me laugh.
That is funny.
I'm not sure if Pies even knows enough about American football, American sports to fully get that, but that is quite funny.
That is quite funny. My team might actually have the first up. Well, it's gonna have like the first or third pick, but
aren't you excited?
No, I'm not, because our quarterback is about a $5 million. It's like a 5-year, like $400 million contract or something like that. But hey, whatever.
Maybe we shouldn't leave Pies hanging like this. It's just to explain. So in the US, because they obviously don't have relegation, they always have the draft picks at the beginning of the season or at the end of the season, whenever it is. And then you basically pick from a whole pool of talented young players. They're usually young players, right? The whole draft.
They come out of college.
College. And then basically, if you come last in the league, you get first pick. If you come second to last, you get second pick. So tanking the pail for the draft picks. That was a joke. Anyway, go on, guys.
But I think it's very much like you can see the greenery, I guess is how you would put it, like how green these guys are in understanding. I think it comes in time, or at least I hope it comes in time, because they're legally obligated to own this club until 2032. So there's not much we can do. We can complain, but like legally he has to own it. So I don't think Boehly's a stupid guy. I think he's very much in it for the success of the club as it is. So I do think he'll learn as we go. It's just, again, it's that growing pains that we're going to have to experience as Chelsea fans, that I know a lot of people are like, they can't comprehend, like, oh no, we're not going to be successful. We're not going to have successful. Like, yeah, Chelsea is success, but the way things are going to be done now is it's not going to be successful right now. You're going to have to wait a period. You're going to have to wait a little bit. Things are going to happen. You're going to see the progression in time. It's not going to happen instantly. This instant gratification that we have as a society is just, it's not going to happen. So, and I hate to tell people, like, I know you guys don't like to hear this, but there's going to be growing pains. And unfortunately, the ownership is going to be part of that growing pains as much as the manager, as much as the players. That's just how it's going to work from here on out.
And that's always been my one main people know I wasn't particularly happy with a lot of things Thomas Tuchel did. The closer we got to in the end. But my hesitation, as much as I liked what Potter stands for, how Potter does things, my fear was always like, yeah, but if the ownership is learning, if it was changing the whole structure, should we really get an inexperienced manager? That was always my one debate. But then it happened. I'm like, okay, I back it. It's just we just have to hope it works. But before just one last thing before the getting into the team Pys. Number one, did you see this as well? Apparently, Caicedo available for 65 million, according to today's reports. And you definitely, out of us three, you know Caicedo the best in terms of you've paid more, like, taking a look at him just because of Chelsea's interest type thing. And now you can just tell me whether you actually agree with what I'm going to say now. Because to me, my kind of hesitation with Caicedo is I see him as a Kante style player. Yeah. Well, I'm like, but imagine Kante back, so like someone that can run, someone that has pace, someone that has energy, bigger obviously, but still. But does he at all fix our creative issue? And if he, because I've not really seen him as that much of a creative player, but maybe that's just me. So maybe you will tell me he is. But if he isn't, then I don't think we should be going for him, because then that forces us even more into having to rely on Mason Mount for creative output. And solely, basically, Mason Mount and potentially new attackers. But nothing more will come from midfield then, if we sign someone like Caicedo. Would you agree with that, or do you think he has more creativity than I'm aware of?
Well, he's a good passer, but I wouldn't label him as a creator. I think your analysis there in terms of comparison to Kante is actually really, really good, to be honest. He's a ball winner. He's very good in the tackle. But he's good going forward as well. He plays box to box and also as a six. He's played there a lot for Brighton as well. So right. I really like him.
Double six.
Double six. I really like him as a player. But again, like, does he fix anything? I mean, he'll certainly improve our midfield a lot. He would definitely improve our midfield. But in terms of like what we need, that sole creator, like that's why I was so hyped about Enzo Fernandez, because the passes he plays from deep are just ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. And you are right. We probably have to rely on Mount more. Be interesting as well, because if we sign Caicedo, like,
if we use him as a DM, it's a different situation. But I wouldn't expect that. I would expect him to be used where Zakaria is used right now, and then,
Yeah, especially if we play like this 4-2-3-1. With 4-3-3 is a bit different, because then you can kind of have like the lone six, which again, arguably we haven't really got right now, and then you'd have maybe Kovacic, Mount, or and obviously Caicedo. But yeah, I think he's a good player, but I don't know if he's the right fit. Probably,
and also 65 million. People say like it's not 80, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of money.
And it's only 20 million off what we apparently offered for bloody Enzo.
Yeah,
even less so, because the Enzo bid was in euros, and the 65 million, I presume we're talking about pounds. So 85 million euros for Enzo was only 75 million pounds. So then we're only 10 off. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think we need to just find a way as well of not relying on an individual creator. We need to find a way of creating chances more consistently as a team. Like, that needs to happen, but that will happen over time, and that's why I think a lot of people wanted Enzo right now, is because like you just know, like he is that guy. Like he would do that right now, in my opinion. So yeah, I think he's the wrong fit, Caicedo, but I wouldn't say no to him. I think he's a great player.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we signed him, then I would hope we'd have a plan for it. But me just sat here as a fan, go for him. I'm not sure if the best idea. I'm not 1,000,000% sure if I agree with Tobias here, saying I'd rather have McAllister than Caicedo. Is he slightly more creative? I would kind of think so, from what I've seen. But honestly, even if Brighton have good players, I want us to, like, for the outside view of our football club, we just need to stop signing Brighton players now. I think that genuinely. One last thing that I just remembered. I'm sure you guys both saw the whole Gvardiol thing. That his comments that in the summer it was close, apparently, and that we agreed we will do it in the winter, but now we just signed Badiashile. And also he said that Liverpool are basically his boyhood club.
That's fantastic. That's gonna
suck.
suck.
What's fucking happening? What are we doing?
That I was going to say something I didn't pick up when we had this ownership debate. That is a massive problem, because players talk to other players, and if we go from someone from the same club where a player we wanted and we didn't get, like these things get around. Players talk, managers talk, owners talk. So that's an issue for me. Like, don't make false promises. Like, apparently we did that for Alvarez. Do you remember? I think everyone was reporting it, weren't it? Not like I want him, but that was the report that probably promised to go back in for him in January. Like, what the fuck's he doing? Like, that makes no sense.
Exactly. Like, don't make everyone hate us. I know, like, that's a thing Americans love to do. Sorry, but
that is true. That's very true.
I know it's true. It's still slightly offensive. But I just like, what are we doing? Like, it just annoys me. Like, I understand not signing Guardiola because they probably asked too much money. Obviously, him having such as good a World Cup as he did will obviously raise the price as well compared to what it potentially would have been in the summer. And it was already quite crazy expensive in the summer. So I understand that we decide that's too expensive. But come on, man. If that's actually the case and you like go for Badiashile, surely give Guardiola at least the call or his agent, mate. Sorry, you had a great World Cup. You like the Leipzig ask even more money for you now. We need so many new players. We just can't afford to spend this money on you now. Rather than him sat there, so let's see what they do in the winter then. Like, the poor guy at least told him, at least tell him, and imagine we signed Badiashile and Guardiola. What the fuck are we signing Badiashile for then? Do you know what I mean? Like, the fact that some reporters are still saying, don't fully rule out Chelsea going for Guardiola. Excuse yourself. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? And all of this annoys me. And, I mean, the Liverpool is his boyhood club. I mean, West Ham was Lampard's boyhood club. Doesn't always mean that it can't work out and you can't change them. And I'm sure there's other examples.
I'd love to know
players
who
for us that supported other clubs when they were younger. But still, it just doesn't come across well, does it?
I'd love to know who some of our players secretly supported when they was younger as well.
Yeah, but it's not just he said as a club. He said the club remains in my heart until now. And I'm like, well, do you know what I mean? Do I need to hear that? I don't know, Clutch. I mean, what's your thoughts on this Guardiola situation? Like, if it's close in the summer, we're going to do something in winter, but we apparently don't tell him that we're now not, unless we still are. And then what the fuck are we doing with Badiashile for then? Like, again, just more and more things at the moment accumulating that really trigger me. And yes, there was a Real Madrid fan, was he? Are you even allowed to be a Real Madrid fan if you're born in Catalonia? Fair enough. I think it's born in Catalonia anyway. But Clutch, thoughts on this, again, this situation before we finally get into the team for tomorrow?
I don't know. I mean, I can understand. I think I don't like making promises to anyone. Like, if Boehly's out there being like, "Yeah, we'll come back for you," that's just dumb. That's just dumb. Please don't do that, because you have no way of saying, "Hey, all of a sudden he has a great World Cup. That he's allowed 120 million now." You're not going to pay 120 million for him because you still have other areas you got to address. Like, you know the budget, you know what you're going to spend. So why are you telling somebody like, "Hey, I'm going to go get you at this point"? Alvarez makes sense, but even then, like, I don't know why we're ever in for him. Like, he's not good. I'm sorry for anybody who needs to hear that. He's not. But
wait, who's not good?
Alvarez. I don't think he's very good.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
But Guardiola, I think he's a very talented player. And now the fact that he's saying he's a Liverpool fan, I'm like, oh, so we're going to have Van Dijk and Guardiola. That's going to be a fantastic, insane partnership. But I don't think Liverpool will go for him, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah,
it's you shouldn't be out there doing things like that unless you actually have an intention and they're your top target. I mean, now you have Enzo, who's not going to be very happy with you if you don't come back in for him. You're going to have Guardiola, Alvarez. Not that I think it matters, but like, why would you? I think one
more
of the
than the
worst
players,
things
clubs like Benfica, that matters. And the agent of Guardiola, those people matter.
I think for me, the worst thing in life, one of the worst things in life you can do is burn bridges, because you never know when you're going to have to take that bridge again. So I've always gone at like reality of like, okay, like, just be honest. If you're not going to go for the player, be like, "Hey, look, things changed. Like, the price tag was too much." Even tell the club, who cares? Like, be like, yeah, just be open about it, but don't ever be like, "Hey, don't tell somebody one thing and do it the other, because you're just going to burn a bridge, and then you never know if they're going to be a player who shows up at Benfica in 5 years that we want. And guess what? They're not going to be able to do anything because they're not going to want to negotiate with us.
Yeah, fair. I mean, Uni says here, Gvardiol said he's a Madrid, Barca, and Liverpool fan. Wouldn't surprise me if people just took the cut out of where he said he's a Liverpool fan and ignored the other two. And I mean, yeah, not wrong, AJ. To be fair, Gvardiol was the guy who chose to sign a new contract, though that we assumed had a release clause, but it appears it doesn't. That's true. And Keyshawn says, man, these players are a fan of whatever team is cutting the check. Yeah, while I see that, if Badiashile really wanted to join us, and maybe now that we're saying Badiashile, he's also aware that we're not going to, and maybe that's why he said it. But if you want to join Chelsea, if you want to sign any club, from that point onwards, if you're close to it, if you're in negotiation, in the process of potentially going there, then you shouldn't say anymore, even if it's the case, you shouldn't publicly say anymore that you support, you're a fan of a big rival club. Like, it can still be the case, but you know, PR is a thing. Do you know what I mean? But anyways, let's get into talking about this team for tomorrow. And I touched on it earlier already because some people on Twitter started talking about this. Because obviously Mendy's out. We're not going to use Bettinelli, are we? Should we use him? I mean, does anyone think we should? I'll start with you, Clutch. Do you think Slonina should at all be used here?
I mean, if you're definitely not going to use Kepa, then yes, because I think Bettinelli will absolutely get manhandled. But when's the last time Slonina played?
Well, whenever the last MLS game was that he was involved in.
He played for Chicago. Chicago was terrible.
Didn't they? I thought they made the playoffs, but I could be wrong.
Hold up. I'll look.
But even then, it's like before the World Cup, the last game. So,
but I think if it's between him and Bettinelli, then yes. But also, maybe because I don't want Kepa to get hurt.
But he might just get hurt against Fulham. So, you know, are you also going to play Slonina against Fulham?
I mean, my first choice is Kepa, regardless. Like, that would be who I want out there, regardless. I know he made a mistake, but this is where you kind of give him that opportunity. I would pick Kepa over everybody, but if you're asking me to pick between Slonina and Bettinelli, it's going to be Slonina.
Okay, fast. But yeah. Pies, I mean, do you at all think we should be giving Slonina a shout here?
No, I swear he's like absolutely woeful right now as well.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he makes so many mistakes in the MLS. So, I mean, if it's him or Bettinelli, I'd play him. But
yeah,
no, from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure he's made some like mistakes that you like. Yeah, I don't think he's very good right now from what I was seeing and reading.
Fair. Just super quickly, because obviously you were at the game, we didn't talk about it after. What are your thoughts on that? Well, the goal, because he didn't know what Kepa was doing.
You know what? I actually didn't even realize there was a problem until I watched the replay, because like it came across so quick, it just looked like a cutback goal to me. But when I watched the replay, I thought, well, has someone told him to leave it? Because I thought
it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, like surely you would not like. Like your instinct is to obviously dive across, even if you got like a fingertip to it, you wouldn't just leave it. Like, but the only thing I was thinking was whether he thought like he couldn't get near it, so left it. But then again, why would you even?
He was so close to it, though. Surely he can't. Can't get it.
Did he thought it was? I don't know. I'm confused.
Like, because like there was another one. You know when Haaland had his huge chance not long after they scored and just kind of slid over the ball. People were also complaining that Kepa didn't try to collect that cross. That cross to me, I let him off a little bit off for because. He can. I know you just said the fingertip thing, but to me, I understand maybe a bit of hesitation because you know how often does it happen that a goalie comes for a cross, Paris is straight into the middle, and someone has an easy tap in. So I understand why a goalie would have that running across their mind, that fear that he just literally passed it to an opponent and it's an easy goal.
Yeah, if you can't have that fear though as a goalie, like if
but what I'm saying, you should have the awareness. Okay, is it safer to let it go through, or is it safer to parry in the middle if I can't catch it? But this one, I think he should have just caught it. He can just land on it. I think he can stop it completely and not parry anywhere. Genuinely.
That's what I mean. If he thought that was safe, then there's some serious issues because it was right across the middle of the box in the penalty area.
Well, maybe he thought. Again, we just don't know if he.
Yeah, I don't know.
Had a shout or did he? Did he
Hey,
miss?
did you hear it on TV, Laurenz?
Further away from him than it was. Who? I don't know.
Did you hear it on TV, Laurenz? You know, apparently you can hear players shouting on TV.
No, I didn't hear anyone on TV.
Let's not start that. Let's not start that.
But I think now you're misconstruing what I said to you in that picture. I've never said
Oh,
that you
here
can
we
hear
go.
it on TV, other than in lockdown. But otherwise, you can't hear it on TV. That's the whole point.
Fuck's sake. Fuck's sake.
But anyways, all right then. I agree on Kepa, by the way. Obviously, I think it would be like Selena wasn't even on the bench in the last game. So why the fuck would he start tomorrow? That would be insane stuff. All right. Let's get to the centre backs then. What do we do here? Does Badiashile get a shout? Does he make his debut tomorrow?
I just know one of them is Chalobah.
Matt Law's just posted an article saying Graham Potter has come out fighting ahead of Chelsea's game tomorrow against Man City. Says he's not a robot. Reveals he gets pissed off. Believes in his own quality. Wouldn't have taken Chelsea job if he thought he could get sacked after 4 months of being here. Fair enough.
Well, you asked for him not to not be boring.
You can't complain about him not getting fired up now when he's actually just getting fired up and you're laughing at him. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
I'm laughing at Matt Law's article's headlines. He's so funny.
Yeah,
that man disappeared just to come back and get
it's
absolutely
just a
obliterated.
very long article, so I don't really want to read through all of it, but I can quickly get on screen like the tweet, the headlines. But the article is very long, so I'm not really bothered to read through all of that now because we're already here for a while and we haven't even got through the defense yet. But yeah, what Pice just read out basically. I mean, I like it. It's just there have been a couple of press conferences where he's come out fighting in games. But then again, did I mind our performance against City? Do I actually think he set up well in general? I actually do. So I can't complain too much at the moment about Potter specifically, even though I know plenty of people are, but I personally wouldn't. Last time Slanina played was September 17th. That's a fucking long time ago, man. All right.
And there was still like 5 games after that he didn't play in. So he was like hurt or something. I don't know. He wasn't on the field, but on bench, so.
Okay. All right, then. Anyways, back to the team. Defenders. Pice, does Badiashile make his debut tomorrow, or is it Koulibaly and Chalobah? I assume we're going to rest, and you're going to rest Thiago Silva just, to not overplay him. Or would you stick with Koulibaly, Thiago Silva potentially?
Yeah, I think, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if Badiashile does start because he's played already a lot in Ligue 1, but I think it'd be quite the risk to throw him in just in terms of... Well, then would it, though? Because otherwise, why, I don't know, why would you sign him? He's quite... Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to put him in there, and if he doesn't start, he doesn't start. Why not,
Exactly. I completely agree.
Chalobah. I'll go him and Chalobah. Actually, no, him and Koulibaly, because I'm not having a play at fucking right back ever again in my life. I need.
Do you think he was that bad against City?
Bro, no, he wasn't, but in terms of, I just don't want, I wanted it, didn't want it ever again before the Man City game, so I don't want it. I don't want it.
That's fair because, I was going to get to what you were saying in terms of, if you now said Chalobah, I'm like, and what are we going to do at right back? Play Aspie again?
Yeah. No,
or, we all said...
I was going to make the...
But do we simply, for availability's sake, have to switch to a back three?
No.
Then, is Ruben back, by the way? No one's... I don't know that yet.
I don't think so.
I was going to use the youth kid who's been training with him, but... I was going to pick, what is his name?
But Dion Rankin in the friendly against Brentford played on the wing and scored. In the friendly against Aston Villa, came on the wing. Not really sure he's as much of a right back as people made him out to be.
I was going to do the, what's his name? Derek Aboud?
Yeah, he's a right back. He's a right back.
That's who I was going to use, but...
Pice, what would you think about that? If we throw Derek Abu, is it Abu in there? Would you back that?
No, because I'm pretty sure Felix, who watches like he knows all about the academy, says he's completely not ready at all for anything to do with Chelsea.
And he might not know what he's talking about when it comes to Enzo, but we do think he knows what he's talking about with the youth team at least.
100%, yeah.
There you go. Okay, well, in that case then, Clutch, now that you've heard that, even though, of course, that doesn't need to mean it's correct, what would your centre back and therefore right back then be?
Well, probably just this then. Koulibaly, Badiashile, and then Chilwell.
And also poor Chalobah. the guy can't even, like, the guy has been our best defender this year, well, aside from Thiago Silva, obviously. And now he can't get a game, and when he does, we're putting him a right back. Poor guy. But yeah, okay. I would certainly back it. I would certainly back it. Now, would I feel a little bit concerned about Koulibaly also potentially playing too many games? Just because Thiago Silva is 38, people from the age of 31, 32 already get towards, being a tad older. Do you know what I mean? Like, look at Aspie. He's only just turned 33 and he's looked old for 3 years. But now Aspie, the first thing Aspie needs to do is, by the way, shave. You've got a grey beard now. You need to stop letting your stubble grow. Like, that is ridiculous. Come on, what are you doing, man? But anyway, what do we do at left back? Are we all in agreement that Lewis Hall should start, or is anyone going to say Lewis Hall should start in midfield?
Nope. Lewis Hall, left back.
Problem with me is, like, with left wing back, I think you can kind of get away with the defensive side a little bit, but I'm not sure whether, because he's going to be up against Mahrez, so it worries me a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
I mean, I see where you're coming from, but with Chilwell's injured, we can't play Cucurella every game until Chilwell's back.
No, that's the dilemma I've got. I actually have no idea what to do here.
I think it's just got.
I don't think.
I mean, it will be Hall anyway because me and Clutch pick Hall, but yeah.
I don't think there's going to be. I don't think there's a decision. I think it's just Hall at this point.
Yeah, Pice, are you going to agree, or would you rather stick with Cucurella?
I mean, if Chilwell can start on Tuesday, I'll choose Cucurella, but I don't know if he can. So,
is Chilwell that close to being ready to play again?
I'm pretty sure he was. I'm pretty sure he was.
He's not even been in training. He's been in the.
No, yeah, he has been in training a lot.
But I thought him and Ruben were doing individual training. That's when they were pictured. I thought.
But I thought Graham Potter said last week he'd be back for the Fulham game. So.
Oh, you said that? Well, that went right by me. Well, if that is,
I thought he said he hoped he'd be back for the Fulham game.
Well, that's hope is hope. I'm gonna go with hope if that was the case. Anyway, I swear
you're gonna live on hope.
Yeah, it's a lot of living in hope right now, bro.
But even then, you think he would actually just be ready to start?
Well, no, but Cucurella could come off, couldn't he? And then, or we could play Hall in that game and play a 3 at the back. I don't know.
I would rather just use Hall tomorrow, to be honest. But it's all you.
I would go with Hall as well. But I mean, Pice, you don't necessarily have to decide because 2 of us picked Hall now already anyway. But do you want to decide or just leave it up in the end?
I'll go with Cucurella.
Fair. Absolutely understandable. Now, I put it up as a 4-3-3 now. Probably more likely to be more of a 4-2-3-1 just for player availability. Although Mason might apparently be back because didn't Potter say that it was just a small knock and he should be back for the weekend. But just because the way it worked in the last game, I would be surprised if against City again, obviously it's going to, Zakaria is going to put, or presumably Zakaria, it's going to push a little bit. So it's going to shift into this at times anyway. But I think more base, it's going to, I see this one happening. So let's do the double pivot first then. Do we go with the same? What do we do? Is it Jorginho? Is it Jorginho and Zakaria in this one rather than Kovacic and Zakaria? Just because, Kovacic hasn't been back long. We still don't know what his knee injury situation is. Pice, I'll let you go first on this one. What would you pick in the double pivot?
I'd go 4-3-3 actually.
Okay. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'd go Jorginho as the lone 6. I'd go Chukwuemeka and Mount as the midfield 3.
Bloody hell, you want to get spanked for?
I want to go attacker.
All right. All right. I'm not sure if Clutch and me are going to let you have that, but hey, this is what you go for.
Hold up. Before, who are you going to put at the left wing?
Fair point.
I'm willing to listen, but who are you going to put at the left wing?
You don't want to know.
I do want to know because you're probably going to put Aubameyang, and it's going to annoy me, and I'm going to have to disassociate from you.
Yeah, I think that laugh told us everything we needed to know. All right, Clutch. What would be your midfield? And would it be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3?
In interest of not getting Aubameyang on the field, it's definitely not going to be Chukwuemeka. I can tell you that. I would do Mount, Jorginho.
But in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1?
It's going to be a 4-2-3-1 is what I would do.
You know
And
what?
then Mount is the 10 in your...
I don't... The thing is, if Mount isn't injured, or if Pulisic or Sterling wasn't injured, I would have Chukwuemeka in that 10 spot and not Mount. But that's just not how it is right now. I'm going to go Kova, Jorginho, Mount.
Kova. Okay, I'm not really sure how we're going to figure this out because the only one that I'm sure that I want to start is Zakaria. That's the only one I'm like, okay, you were so good against City. He's not going to be this good against everyone, but when we have to be somewhat defensive, we need it. So play him. You know,
we also need him against
You can
Fulham,
probably leave him out. But against City, we need him, I think, to just play him. That's my opinion. Sorry, you were saying, Pies?
I was going to say, I feel like we need him against Fulham as well, though. Like, that's why I left him
just
out.
play him every game.
We
you know what I mean?
we
Like,
need
he didn't
this-
play all the first part of the
Play him every
season.
game.
We need him to be that player all season, but we can't have that. But,
No, once Ruben is back, it will be a little bit easier because at least they have. I know Ruben isn't perfect, but at least we have somebody else big strong then.
The hopes and prayers on Ruben help us.
No hopes and prayers. That's just to give Zakaria rest. No hopes and prayers or anything. Just when we need to rest.
I just don't
Zakaria,
see
at
Ruben
least we have someone
playing
to play.
anymore, to be honest with you.
I mean, there is a case to be made for leaving Cucurella in the side to play whole in midfield. There is also that argument to be made. If one would want to. I would...
Why do I have a feeling it's probably going to be Jorginho, Mount, and Gallagher? Why do I have that feeling?
Nah,
I'll tell you what.
I don't know why.
Can I
I'm
just say,
so
by the way,
confident that Zakaria will start again. I don't know
Can
why.
Can I just say, by the way, the atmosphere, right, was so dead until one player came on, and that was Conor Gallagher. He, honestly, I don't care whether he did anything or not. He didn't play great, but he lifted the crowd at that game so much.
Because he was chasing everything.
Exactly. And that, I tell you what, like, honestly,
Makes
it
a
may
huge
not be-
difference. Just the crowd being behind the team makes the team play better.
Mate,
People don't
I'm
like
shitting
to
you
admit
not.
it, but it's a fact.
There was one time we were down so bad. There was one time I think where he chased down the ball. I believe it went out for a throw-in or something. Like he chased all the way from the left, and whatever happened, I can't quite remember. But the crowd celebrated like it was a bloody goal. I've never seen
He
anything
kept
like
it in play, but then the City player closed him down, and he kind of won a free kick. I think maybe.
I think it was that. Anyway, I'm just saying like that. That was honestly.
I seen on Twitter somebody say Conor Gallagher was our Messi when it came to pressing, but on the ball he was our Bakayoko. I laughed so hard at that.
Hey, at least he wasn't Bakayoko in both, sides of things. It's something. What are we going to do now? Because we picked three completely different midfields here. What are we going to do? I don't really. I'm also still not 100% sure because I'm not saying that's what I'm going to pick, but let's be realistic that this is an option. Mount being back fit. We know Lampard did it. We know Tuchel in a way did it. There's a chance Mount plays wide as well. I know Clutch hates it, but I'm just telling you this. There is that chance that happens with the injuries that we have.
To be fair, if you're asking me to put Mount or Aubameyang on the left wing, I'm still going to put Mount over there. So,
well, obviously. But that's why I'm not... Yeah. You know what? I'm going to pick this as my midfield. because I don't want to do it for Kovacic. Do you know what I mean? Like, the guy came back to training after Christmas. Before that, he had a break and played the whole World Cup. Like, how fit is he? How fit is he? Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'd be a bit cautious with that. But obviously, maybe he's fully fit and then obviously play him.
Boy, what the... Can I just say, completely unrelated, but Man United are in discussions to sign Wout Weghorst for striker.
All right. Fair enough.
That's so random, sorry.
My guy, Wout Weghorst is making more miles in air miles just transferring between clubs than the rest of the planet. Do you know what I mean?
Completely irrelevant. I just thought it was really random. Didn't expect that.
It is very random, no. I appreciate the input, mate. Yeah. Okay, so 2 people picked Mount. 3 people picked Mount, actually. So Mount stays in there, fair enough, regardless of formation. Jorginho stays in there. If it's Mount and Zakaria, I'm not 1,000,000% sure if it's not more going to be a 4-3-3 though than a 4-2-3-1, if I'm honest. Not sure if that's going to be a good idea, but I just see this as a bit more likely. Yeah. Pice didn't pick cover, so therefore I'm going to leave this on screen. Yeah. Because it's a three-way between Cover, Zakaria, and Chukwuemeka. So you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to put a poll. I'm going to put a poll in the chat.
This one's going to be interesting.
Who would you start as the third midfielder? And you guys might not like it that Jorginho is there, that Mason Mount is there, but just accept that. The poll that you're going to get now is going to be picking between the three options that we're going to give you now. Mind you, if you pick Chukwuemeka can't be on the wing, and then who is on the wing? So remember that before you click Chukwuemeka. Zakaria, and of course, Mateo Kovacic. And you guys can pick. Obviously, keep in mind, fitness, keep in mind rotation, blah, blah, blah. Keep all of those things in mind and just place your vote. And whichever comes out top, that's who we will pick. If it's Chukwuemeka, I don't know what we're going to do because me and Clutch are probably going to put Chukwuemeka at left wing. So if he wins in this poll now, don't know what we're going to do. But anyway, let's move to the front three. Pice, do you want to just rip off the Band-Aid and kill Clutch?
Well, I was actually going to go with... Well, I was going to go with Aubameyang, but then I thought maybe you should play Mount on the left because he kind of did that under Lampard a few times.
But you put Mount in your midfield three.
Yeah, I did, but then I kind of changed
okay, you're changing your mind. Yeah, fair. Okay, yeah.
Because I think I remember back to that goal he scored against Liverpool at Anfield. I mean, he's probably better on the wing than what's his name, Aubameyang. So, and I actually think he's better on the left than the right because he can actually cut in and shoot. So,
yeah.
I'm gonna put Mount on the left. And in my midfield, I'd go with Jorginho as we have it there. Zakaria and probably Chukwuemeka, but they're going to have to be tasked with the responsibility to come back. Maybe Gallagher, I'm not sure.
So basically, you've put in Zakaria instead of Chukwuemeka in your... instead of Mount in your midfield and put Mount in the wing.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure on the third midfielder. It all depends on the balance because, Jorginho was left so isolated and overrunning against Nottingham Forest, so I'm not really sure who to put there. But anyway, my front three, Mount. I think Potter's going to go over Aubameyang. I think.
But I don't think he is.
No, I think he is because he can't play Havertz all the time. So I'm going to put Aubameyang, and then
maybe that's why we're going after Thuram. So he's going to hope from next week he's going to play Thuram.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And then, it's going to have Ziyech.
Starting Aubameyang after subbing and then subbing him off would actually be insane.
I mean, I think he came on basically after 2 minutes. So it's basically like that. I don't think we should see this as he got subbed on and subbed off. I know this is factually what happened, but because it was so early, he basically started the game. So I don't think we should necessarily see it as he got hooked again after starting, personally.
Newcastle are losing 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday.
Well, because they have...
Oh, never mind.
Newcastle will be, unless they spend big, the reason they are where they are is because they're not in Europe. The reason Arsenal are where they are is because they're not in Europe. That's why I'm like, if we come 10th, we might win the league next year. So, But anyway, Pice, you said you think Potter's going to pick Aubameyang. But are you going to pick Aubameyang? Or are you going to put someone else up top?
What's that?
You said you think Potter's going to pick Aubameyang up front, but are you going to pick Aubameyang up front?
Yeah, I'll pick Aubameyang just because. Who else have we got? I'd love to pick someone else. Havertz probably start on Fulham, so
I can't fully disagree. I wouldn't do it, but in terms of thinking about it logically, you're not that far off being realistic. I didn't fill in Mount on the left wing yet because obviously so far we still have him in midfield, so this is going to be difficult. Clutch, are you going to tell me your front three?
Chukwuemeka, Havertz, and Ziyech.
Okay. I'm going to put Chukwuemeka there because I'm going to agree, and now I have to think about what I'm going to do up front. Is it okay if I say Fofana? Just, this is my team.
Bro, you can throw
If you're
Slimani
asking
up
me
front if you want.
between Aubameyang and Fofana, I'd pick Slonina at striker over Aubameyang at this moment.
Yeah. I don't know.
I really
mean,
just
Crucial in the chat says no Hutchinson. The reason I want Hutchinson to be given another sub appearance, but like after an hour, and that's what I would like to see. I don't think after the game he had in the last game, he should just start. Obviously, you could argue Chukwuemeka is the winger, play Hutchinson on the wing instead, but Chukwuemeka performed well against this very team in this very position. So maybe you shouldn't start for Chukwuemeka on the wing against Fulham, where we're going to probably dominate possession and we're going to, try to break down a low block. But against City, I think after the way he played in the last game, I think you absolutely can just use him there. Like Pies, I agree. Actually, I think Potter will pick up Aubameyang just because we already have 10 injuries. He cannot imagine Havertz get injured as well. He cannot afford that to happen. He absolutely cannot afford that to happen. And imagine it happens for being overplayed rather than an impact thing. So that's why if predicted 11, I will also pick up Aubameyang up front. The problem is okay, if I start Havertz, I'm still going to have to sub him off for Aubameyang anyway. So it's not going to change that much. So I'm going to pick Havertz just because, I have to stick true to myself and not like Aubameyang.
Question for Oliver in the chat. So I know you're talking about that Havertz chance to Aubameyang where he just kind of went backwards. Now, I'm mad that he went backwards, but in Aubameyang's form, at the top of the box, you really think he's scoring that goal? You're insane, bro.
If the pass is very good, he's 1-on-1 with the keeper, of course. But
because I think the defender has position, so it's not that far off of him catching him. So I don't think it's a goal like you say it is. If anything, we'd probably watch Aubameyang embarrass himself again. So let's not.
Absolutely, and let's also you talk about this Aubameyang agenda, blah blah blah. Havertz created 4 chances in this game, but more than Kevin De Bruyne, more than any other player on the whole pitch. I'm not saying Havertz had the greatest game of all time, but Havertz created 4 chances. And people the amount of people that shared that clip of Havertz go backwards in that situation. And I agree, it annoyed me in that moment as well. Absolutely. But what really annoys me is that people are so uneducated in football that people don't even understand what strong foot players have. People don't completely ignore the fact that Havertz was on his right foot there. Imagine Ziyech was on his right foot there. Do you imagine he would play that pass? Do you think Juan Mata would have played that pass on his weak foot? Even Hazard wouldn't have played that pass on his weak foot, probably. And maybe Hazard. And Hazard is the most talented player in this club's history. So, even Hazard wasn't very good on his weak foot. And people just run around here as if, I agree, Havertz shouldn't have passed back there. And in an ideal world, he should at least try it. But the way people make it out to be is he committed the biggest criminal offense of all time. I'm he didn't trust his weak foot. Okay, it happens. This is what happens when players are in bad form, bad confidence. Do you know what I mean? And people, yeah, I don't know. I still think you should have played the pass. You should have attempted it. You're a good enough player. You're an expensive enough player. You're playing at a big enough club that you should trust your right foot. No, Kenny, no. He really wouldn't on his right foot. Go back and watch all of Juan Mata's assists, and he's had plenty for us. You can count on one hand how many of those he did with his right foot. You can. Trust me. Trust me with that one. But anyway, I'm going to put this up, but I don't know. I just saw something else in the chat, which maybe could be something to talk about.
The Sunset Bell thing leaving.
Oh, yeah, the Sunset Bell thing. There you go. Sunset Bell is leaving Chelsea in January because his contract is running out this summer. He's not going to stay. Understandable. I mean, we just signed Fofana, another striker in front of him. When he was used in that one game, I was very disappointed anyway, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, we also don't know if Mandy is actually going to be fit. Just because Frank Taylor said Man shouldn't be there, maybe he shouldn't. But who else are you going to play then? Then you put Chukwuemeka in midfield, and then who's going to be on the wing? Aubameyang or Hutchinson has to start, and then who's on the bench? Cucurella left back or left centre mid, Chukwuemeka left wing back, left wing. Hey, it's not the worst shout in the world, but again, unless Chilwell is as close to fitness as Pi said, and I sort of somehow completely missed that. How's I pass to Mate against Spurs away? I mean, I don't remember that pass, but was it as difficult as that? Havertz one to Aubameyang would have been. I don't know. Can Fofana and Santos be used to the bench tomorrow? Fofana definitely. Santos, I'm less sure about, but probably. I'm not sure if he will though. But yeah, this suggestion for Frank Taylor, I wouldn't be totally against this either, by the way. But only if Chilwell is actually close to fitness, because otherwise, Cucurella's played a lot. I guess he didn't play the World Cup, so he should be okay. And he was subbed last game. Should we change our minds here? Clutch. I mean, it's mainly Clutch because obviously Pies picked it anyway. Should we change our minds here, Clutch, on the whole and play Hall in midfield?
No, I mean, if Mount's fit, Mount will play, and Mount should probably play. But if Mount's not fit, then I would be down for that.
Okay. I mean, you could obviously play a double pivot of Hall and Zakaria as well if you wanted to, and not play Jorginho. But realistically, is Jorginho not going to play 2 games in a row? I see it as very unlikely. Ladies and gentlemen, unless there's anything else that I've missed, I think we've gone for over 2 hours. Plenty of time. Sorry. I don't know. Sometimes the streams art out as just being super long. And then the other week, we had a couple of 120 streams. But hey, is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, before you go anywhere, I need you to do a couple of things. Number 1, please do subscribe. It's a big red subscribe button underneath. If you haven't, I'm sure you'll see it. So please hit that subscribe button. Whether you're subscribed or not, hit the notification bell button next to the subscribe button and select all so you don't miss any future streams. Smash the like button as well because it helps us spread these streams and videos out to more people, and that's how content creators grow. And also, extremely importantly, please check out Pies' website. The link is down in the description, chelseafc365.com. And of course, like I said earlier, please subscribe to Charlie on YouTube and check out Charlie's, Clutches, and Pies Twitter. Their links are all down in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. We're in big, big trouble. It's not just some people found that funny that I put that as the title. We're in big, big trouble. It's like if Jose Mourinho may come to our referee. Big, big trouble. Let's hope the trouble can be eased tomorrow. But what eases our trouble? Just getting through a game without more injuries? Hey, it would be a start. When was the last time we had a game without injuries? Because we had 2 injuries against City. Did we have an injury against Forest?
I don't think so.
So, okay, against Forest, but again, then obviously against Bournemouth we did, in the friendly against Brentford we did, in the friendly against Aston Villa we did, in the last Prem game before the World Cup we did. Like, my God. Oh, it's a whole nightmare. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.